Welcome to Navigating Your Retirement. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with our host. The man with the plan is, of course, the one, the only, the magnificent Travis Chance. How's that for an
There you
introduction?
go. I'm sure there are quite a few people that are like, man, I'm glad there is only one. I'm just kidding. Uh,
That's not true.
uh, but yeah, good morning. It's always fun here in Studio B. I don't know where that came from, but I feel like I need a nap already because most of you guys know we pre-produce the show and we record typically on Tuesday mornings and um, just some of the interviews. President Trump was on CNBC this morning. I swear I need a nap after 40 minutes of him jousting with the with the interviewers. Tony, it was interesting. It's hard to get a word in edgewise whenever he gets rolling.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and plus, yeah. And if the interviewer is confrontational
Oh
to
yeah.
the interviewee, that
But
just
I will say I like Joe. I like Joe Kernan. First thing in the morning,
yeah.
he is a little more right leaning, but he actually pushed back a little bit. And
Sure.
I mean, you can be fair. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, they
you know,
need to challenge some of the they can't just, they gotta
right. You
challenge
can't
some of
say
the
what you
things.
want. You gotta, it's kind of
Yeah.
like there's no tax on Social Security. Yeah, you can't say that, right?
No.
I mean, you can say it, but that doesn't necessarily make it true.
Right, you can say
You
anything, but
say
it
anything you
doesn't
want.
make it
You can
true.
yell fire in a movie theater.
Yeah,
You just probably
yeah.
isn't recommended. But anyway, no, it was an interesting way to start the day. I didn't get a chance to finish my cup of calf, so I will throughout the show. And it's getting into interesting times. We're starting to see, and I know a lot of people out there listening, and I know Tony, you probably speak to a lot of advisors that are starting to get little surprises in the mail. Um,
Hmm.
they're starting to get these surprise letters, and they open them, and they're not exactly what we were probably wishing for. And what I'm referencing is it's tax season, right? Because basically, you get your tax estimate. A few months ago, you probably got your tax estimate, said, hey, you have until July 7th or whatever
Yeah.
to challenge, and your homeowners insurance premiums are probably coming up for renewal if they haven't already. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning is the little surprises and the little expenses in retirement that can turn out to be big expenses, but we don't typically think about those
Yeah.
whenever we're budgeting, and we're talking to retirees about, things to prepare for. And, we say, hey, can you give us an idea or give me an idea of what your expenses are? And, a lot of times it's very easy to think about the phone bill. I mean, Tony, I don't know about you, but my phone bill, goodness gracious, right? It's huge. And then
Yeah,
you
ours
think
too.
about you think about your gas, or you think about your car insurance, right? What you I don't hear a lot of people think about, and this is something that we certainly ask or mention, is what about are you still paying a mortgage? Because a lot of times, think about what I'm saying, you get so used to and conditioned to paying your mortgage, and a lot of times mortgages escrow your taxes and insurance, and you don't give that a second thought. Well, all of a sudden, if your home's now paid for, you don't get to write that, or a lot of times most people don't write that small check into a separate account. They
Right.
wait, and then they get this big tax bill, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, it's 4,000, it's 5, it's 10,000, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And
Property taxes and
yeah,
homeowners insurance have gone up exponentially. We got one of those surprise. I mean, I'm like, our homeowners insurance has doubled in the last 2 years. Why is our mortgage gone up?
mhm.
Why did it go up? We have a set rate. We don't have an adjustable rate mortgage. We have a set 3% or 2.9%. Why all of a sudden are we paying more for our house note? Well, they raised the insurance, our homeowners insurance, and it's rolled in, and it went up exponentially.
Sure. And there's a shortfall in your escrow, so you got to make it
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
You know, and the reason why is I hate to say it, it's pretty simple. You know, it's not always mismanagement. You know, I understand that, you know, governments sometimes, local governments especially, they have to raise their millage rate. They have to raise their taxes. They have to do reassessments on your property. Well, all of those, when your property value goes up, we all like it. But what I think sometimes we forget is the fleas come with the dog. And you've heard me say that a lot of times is, you know, you can't forget the fact that if your property value goes up and it doubles or it goes up, you know, 50%, well, that's going to be a chain reaction that's going to now make your property value go up, which means your taxable base on your property goes up, which means you pay more in what? Property taxes, Board of Education, city, county, whatever your municipality is. And then it's like, okay, insurance companies, well, your home was valued at X. Now it's X plus. So we have to increase our premium because you're more of a liability. And then all of a sudden your insurance goes up. So that's one of the things I think, you know, inflation, and that's really the title of the show, about the surprise expenses. Inflation is something I think we all envision, right? 2%, 3%. What we don't envision paying, and where I've had a real tough conversation with some local clients recently, is our Board of Education, Tony, is going up 43% this year.
Wow.
And in just 4 years, they have gone up an average, or excuse me, a minimum of at least 20% or more in each of the last 4 years. And
Wow.
now I mean, for instance, and I'll give you a real life example. And this is something, you know, as I get closer to retirement, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still got 20, 30 years, but it's something I automatically start thinking about, because from the time I purchased my house, renovated it, and then moved in to right now, my property taxes have tripled, not doubled, have tripled.
That's
And our
crazy.
homeowners insurance has tripled.
Oh my gosh.
So think about that. If you're in a populous area, or if you're in a developing area and you retire, this is why I tell folks, you know, location matters, not just in real estate, you know, location, 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 but retirement, location, location, location. Because if you're in one of those little budding areas and all of a sudden, you know, they see this mass influx like we have in our area, because Tony, I think we've talked about this before. We have the Hyundai plant,
Yes.
the Hyundai Meta plant.
Yep.
It's huge. I mean, it's ginormous. And with the influx of the other businesses and the people that are being drawn to our area, our property values are shooting through the roof, and we don't have actually enough being built to service what's being sold. And, you know, we all like it because, you know, on the surface, it's like, okay, our property values are going up. Well, now, you know, to build a house square foot, it's twice what it was 5 years ago just to build a house. That's just for a contractor, general grade, contractor grade house.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether you build or whether you buy, you have this additional cost. And also, yeah, retirees that are holding on to their house, because it's most likely a lot of times paid for by retirement. You know, when they enter that phase, it's already a bill. They're like, okay, I won't have to worry about that. I'll go ahead and pay off my mortgage. Well, you're probably only losing a portion of that overall cost, right? Because your inflation on your taxes and insurance have just eaten up additional cost. And here's another thing: if that didn't make things, you know, a little more challenging, it's not also just those items we have to worry about. Because I mean, here again, we had Helene last year, and we're still going through actually putting our house back in order, and it's been almost 10 and a half months, almost 11 months. But as we're getting things done, you know, we're pricing. I'll give you a great example: the roof to put the roof on our house today was more than, I think it was 120% of what it was in 2018 whenever
Oh,
we did the roof. So, you talk about a 10, 12, $15,000 expense 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. Now you may be thinking about 30, 35,000. Does that make sense?
crazy. That's crazy. And
And
that's something that people don't always think about. And I think you brought up a good point, Travis, and that is for retirees or people who are looking to retire, or maybe downsizing or moving. Where do I want to live in
Mhm.
retirement? One aspect they don't look at or figure out is that catches people by surprise is the property taxes.
Well, it's the
Because
property taxes, but also, Tony, like I said, it's the overall cost of home ownership.
yeah, like if you need a new roof or siding
But an
or yeah,
AC unit, I mean,
yeah,
just those types of things,
sure.
I think are challenging. And as if I could make one recommendation, especially to those that are getting to Tony's age, 5 years out from retirement,
Okay.
about to go home on a 30-year vacation. Yeah, you need to look at things like maybe accelerating some of those repairs now, where you
Yeah.
still have cash flow. AC unit, my goodness, with the new changes to the gases. I mean, Tony, you can't run Freon like you could
Nope.
20 years ago, right? It's this new gas. It's like $10,000 a pound. I'm being a little bit facetious, but not really.
Yeah, it's
But
expensive.
yeah, I mean, you've got these new high efficiency units running this really expensive, coolant, and now you are probably paying 2 or 3 times what you were paying 15 years ago. Well, ACs only have a 10 to 20-year time shelf life anyway.
Right.
So if you're aging into retirement, I guess the main point is this: don't just think about the obvious. Think through some of the outside the box. Is my house, is the roof 20 to 25 years old? It's a 30-year roof. Maybe you might want to say, you know what, let's go ahead and replace that prior. We've got 2 to 5 years before retirement. Might be a good idea to get it done now. That way you've got time to recoup that. Your AC unit, that might be a great idea. Painting of your house, Tony.
Mhm.
It's not just the property taxes. This is stuff we
Yeah.
don't think about. You might, and I don't know, you might still climb a ladder and scaffolding and paint your own house. I don't know. You
No.
seem pretty agile and fleet of foot.
Sure.
So
No, I'm not I'm avoiding ladders at this point.
but there again, I have honestly had clients, and they're going to know who they are. And please don't hit me when you see me in the meeting. But I've had clients that still feel in their 70s and 80s that they can get on a roof and
Mm,
get on a ladder and still paint their eaves, or if they're brick, or paint their house, or clean their roof off. Guys, these are things we have to think about. These properties that we put so much time, effort, love, blood, sweat, and tears in, a lot of this stuff has a shelf life,
yeah.
and you want to be prepared going in and put yourself in that position, because what you don't want to do is, like we talked about before, you hit these really unexpected roadblocks, or these barriers in the beginning stages of your retirement, and they come out of nowhere, and that could be the beginning of having expenses you weren't planning for, that could cause your retirement to not do what you want it to do, because you were like, well, crap, I didn't, Tony, I planned for 100 grand a year or 50 grand a year to live, and I'm spending 30 grand this year on my house. That might be, vacation money, right? I mean, maybe that keeps you from doing something you want to do, because we didn't think through these types of add-ons as we go. So, if I could recommend anything to you guys, is don't just think inside the box, think outside the box. And that's why I think our clients like working with us, because that's basically where I live, is outside the box.
Right, and
We
you're
we're
gonna
not
look at
we're
the
not
big
looking for the
picture.
obvious. We want to see the entire picture, not just
Yeah.
the cookie cutter, upper crust, that basically once you break through that, it's a whole different ballgame.
Right, exactly. And you've got to make it part of your overall retirement income plan, your budget. You have to look at what you're going to need to be spending. And all of these things come into play. A lot of what we've talked about is centered around homes, but you have to look at everything that might be outside of the normal purview. People think, okay, I've got this much to live on and pay my monthly expenses and a little bit more for fun, and I'm set. That's
Well,
not going to work.
I'll tell you something else, Tony, and once again, this is not a grind my gears episode, but it is definitely something that I think everybody's starting to grind their gears over. Is think about this: the cost of medicines, the cost of healthcare, the other things that we don't think about, and as we age, it's the unexpected. But there's one thing that I tell clients on a regular basis you really need to give serious thought before you do it, is committing serious large amounts of capital to family members.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, we're empathetic, we're emotional creatures. Someone needs help, they're a loved one, and let's face it, I'm not trying to tell you not to help your kids and not help your brother, your sister, your sister-in-law, whomever,
Or your radio show
or
co-host.
your radio host show co-host Tony.
Yeah.
But you do have those situations where giving and having that giving heart might be something you need to really look at the impact of. If you only have, Tony, I'm just throwing arbitrary numbers, you have $500,000 and one of your family members says, hey, I need 50 grand and I'm going to pay you back, right? Number one, I would give and not expect to pay back, because otherwise you're going to ruin Christmas and Thanksgiving. That's number one. Number two, if you do that, and let's say it's your retirement money, are you prepared to pay the taxes? Is that something you're thinking about? You take out 50 grand, you're already taking, say, spending 50 to 100 in retirement income. That means it's going to cost you probably 60 to pull that 50. That's additional expense you may or may not get back. So, all these things, I think they're not meant to be, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but I think we all
harsh or
need,
limiting.
I think we all need to have that real jolt of a wake up call to say, hey, that he brings up a good point. Can we do this?
Right.
The answer is most definitely you can. I don't know of a situation I've seen in recent memory that we couldn't plan for. But that's kind of part of it. That's the reason you run the scenarios, you run the analysis and say, can we do it? That's the difference between having a plan and not. Is you can say, okay, I can't do 50, or just going back to that example, I can't do 50, but I could do 20, I could do 25. And that might be the difference in having it be a long-term negative impact or minor speed bump, just knowing what your capacity is. And I think sometimes people don't go that far down the rabbit hole, and they give and they want to be the savior, but in actuality, you could be putting yourself in peril along the way.
Yeah, you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation, and you really do have to look at things. And like you said, tapping your retirement funds for anything, like pulling a sum out, especially before you're retired, but even in retirement, that money is for retirement. That's money that you need for income. You can't take large chunks of it and just say, oh, I've got a family member in need, I'm going to take 50 grand out. That could derail your retirement. It's definitely going to affect your plans and your comfort level in retirement. So you have to work with a financial professional, a financial services professional like yourself, a fiduciary who's going to look out for your best interests and maybe run it by them. But you're right. If you plan for something, like if somebody says, I want to buy a $50,000 camper and we're going to travel when we retire. Well, you've got to plan that in before you retire to make sure you've got that. And that money needs to be in a place where you can access it without paying high penalties. People don't realize most of their retirement accounts, if I have $100,000 in a retirement account, 25 to 30% of that isn't mine. It's a joint account with Uncle Sam if it's a traditional 401k or traditional IRA.
Who can change the rules on how much he gets depending.
Yeah,
Just right now, the bouncing ball is at the bottom, not at the top.
Yeah, but it could go back to the top, and then
Mhm.
you're going to be stuck. So, and if you're not 50, if you're not 60 years old yet, you're going to face a penalty. So,
To put a bow on the show is because I like to obviously talk about taxes. We talk about retirement income planning. We talk about all these other things, but this is why I want to talk about this on the show is having a plan doesn't mean that, Tony, you're putting yourself in a position where you don't have flexibility. It's the exact opposite. And I'll tell you why. Because for everyone that I've actually sat down and walked through the process, what we find is if we do it properly, there's a way to have your cake and eat it too in most cases. Now, not all, but in a lot of them there are. And I've even had the conversation on the opposite side where I've said, "Hey, can we spend some money? Do you need something? Do you want to go on like a big vacation?
sure.
Because we were projecting you 5 years ago to be at here, where X times 2, where you're well above where we thought you would be at this point. Even if you do this, this is not even going to be a drop in the bucket. Your legacy is still going to exceed, X times what you were planning on leaving to your kids and grandkids. So can we have a little fun? Because we do have those conversations too, right? Expenses are not just the bad stuff. It's not just, the taxes, obviously, insurance, things you have to think about prior to retirement, because they're going to stay with us. You downsize or you stay where you are, you still got to pay them, right? There's no
Yep.
way to get around them. As far as some of the other expenses, obviously those are going to ebb and flow based on life, based on the shelf life of the things in your home, the shelf life of our bodies, our joints, right? Medical costs, etc.
Yep.
But there are cases where it goes the other way too, and that's what I think the process of having a financial plan, of having someone who can take a step back and say, okay, let's look at the big picture and say, does this work? Does this not work? And that's where the peace of mind comes in. And so many people, Tony, don't have that. And that's the reason why I love working with the clients that we work with, and love to work with their friends and family and with their coworkers, because we want clients like our clients.
Yeah.
So, folks, just to wrap up today, if you're out there listening, and if you have experienced what I'm talking about, and you don't have a financial advisor, that's why you need to give us a call, 877-269-0839. Or if you're out there listening, you're a current client, hit forward. Send this to one of your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers, because they may be that person we're talking to that doesn't have that peace of mind. And folks, if you're out there listening and you really are just kind of torn, you don't know which way to go on what even questions do I need to ask about retirement planning, that's why you may need to attend one of our courses coming up. We've got offerings coming up in Pooler, Savannah, Statesboro, Bluffton area, Hilton Head. This could be an opportunity for you to find out some things that maybe you didn't even know that you didn't know. Right? There are questions that if we don't know to ask them, it's very difficult to get an answer. So that's why you need to come and actually be in an environment where you can raise your hand, ask questions, and talk through concepts that maybe this might be the first time you've ever been introduced to them. So give us a call, 877-269-0839, or visit us at chancefinancialgroup.com and go to our events page, and you can sign up for the class directly on our website. So, Tony, great topic this morning.
Yeah, super topic. Thank you so much, Travis. And listeners, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Navigating Your Retirement with our host, Travis Chance.